At the family gathering, they handed me an unexpected present. Inside was a $100,000 loan tied to my sister's kids' private academy. Dad said, "You're responsible for this." When I pushed back, she flung wine at my face and Mom yelled, "Leave now." 10 minutes later, a stranger appeared. "I'm Ben," he said. "I'm 31. Middle sibling, the dependable one. I troubleshoot Wi-Fi, put together bookshelves, arrive first, linger last, draft the email nobody else bothers with. In my family, that makes me invisible. I'm not the star, that's my older sister Claire. I'm not the charming wildcard, that's my younger brother Luke. I'm the default. If something needs handling, it lands on me. I'm a financial analyst at a tech firm. I live in a modest apartment with a finicky heater and a reliable teapot. I buy my own birthday cake to keep things straightforward and punctual. I don't grumble. I cover my expenses. I help when it's fair. And when it's not, I've usually done it anyway because family. Growing up, Claire basked in the limelight and the rules bent for her. When she nailed an exam, we celebrated with dessert. When I did, Mom said, "It's not that tough." If Claire needed a $200 outfit for dance, Dad called it a future investment. If I asked for $40 for a debate club trip, he called it unnecessary. I caught on quick. Love carries a heavier price than cash, but I was always footing the bill. I didn't hold a grudge. I told myself I was grown, practical, the steady hand. I mastered numbers because they don't shift mid-conversation. I studied budgets, emergency funds, lease terms. When someone didn't repay me, I stopped lending what I couldn't lose. Still, I showed up to every party, every cookout, every quick get-together. I brought desserts, cables, solutions. I held babies and grudges. When Luke wrecked his car, I drove 40 minutes to wait with him in the rain. When Claire relocated again, I hauled boxes while Dad gave directions. It became a pattern. They asked, I delivered. They teased, I absorbed it. 2 Sundays ago, we had a family supper. Mom's group chat called it that, all caps, exclamation marks, pepper emojis. She texted at 9:10 a.m., "We're something nice tonight. Big surprise." I brushed off the tone and planned to bring a solid bottle of wine and some crackers Dad likes. I pressed a shirt I keep for client meetings and rehearsed staying calm when someone got too blunt. In the car, I practiced lines like I was debugging a program. "I can't cover that now. That's outside my means. I'll consider it." Short, clear. I even told myself silently that I didn't owe anyone a show tonight. Just arrive, eat, go. We gathered at the table by 6:30. Mom's baked chicken. Luke scrolled his phone. Dad was on his 3rd glass, just a splash. Claire rolled in 15 minutes late in a sleek outfit like she was walking a runway to our porch. She air-kissed my cheek and said, "You look drained, Matt." I grinned and said, "I work." She rolled her eyes like I'd cracked a bad pun. Dinner kicked off. Chit-chat about Luke's new workout plan, Claire's twins' dance showcase, Dad's retirement. In quotes because he still consults, grumbles, and banks checks. Mom kept eyeing the buffet table like she'd stashed a secret there, then she clapped. "We've got a special treat," she said, voice sharp as tinsel. Dad stood, fetched a glossy gift bag from the buffet. Fancy bow, shimmering tissue, full display. He said it before me. "For you," he said. I blinked. "Me?" Claire smirked like she knew something. Luke raised his phone to record. "Open it," Mom urged. "This will help us all." Help us all, my gut twisted. I tugged the bow. Inside was a sleek box. Not for rings. Larger, flatter, I lifted the lid. That was the first spark. There was paper. Thick, ivory paper with tiny blue sticky tabs like a contract gone wild. The top sheet read, in polished font, "Family Learning Support Pact." I didn't flip the page. I didn't look up. I just heard Dad say, soft as if calming a child, "We wrote it out so it's clear." I shut the box and placed it down. No one spoke for a moment. The only sounds were the hallway clock and a looping video of the twins laughing on Claire's phone. I swallowed, feeling the room shift like a sky before rain. Mom leaned in, elbows on the table. "Go ahead," she said. "Read it." I didn't. I was stuck on the word family, and that's when the second spark ignited. I'd grown up paying in fragments. Gas money that vanished. Group gifts that ended up on my card with everyone's names scribbled on. When Claire missed rent in college, Dad marched into my dorm with a speech about responsibility and a folder with her late notice. He said, "It'll tank her credit." He didn't say, "We could cover it." He looked at me like I should be ashamed of my reflection. I wrote a $800 check and lived on rice for weeks. When Grandma passed, we stood in a plush room with soft chairs, and Mom whispered the florist botched the bill. She handed me an invoice like it burned her. Just handle it, we'll square up later. We never did. Later never arrived. Not for the dental copay I covered when Luke chipped a tooth. Not for the $250 heating bill I paid because the tank ran dry and Dad forgot. Not for the $60 I gave Claire at a birthday dinner when she forgot her wallet and needed a ride. The sums weren't the issue. It was the setup, the assumption, the quiet expectation that I was always on call, that my savings were communal, that my silence meant agreement. I learned the term for this at work. Mission creep. I'd agreed to draft a budget, and soon I was running Claire's entire expense tracker, which, by the way, she never checked. She'd send me photos of bills with sad faces, and I'd sort them, flag late fees, and send her 3 steps to fix it. She'd text, you're so anal, then tell Mom I was overbearing. Meanwhile, the family story was set. Claire was the devoted mom stretched thin by the cost of giving her kids everything. That phrase, giving her kids everything, was a skeleton key. It opened purses. It silenced doubts. It turned wants into necessities and choices into destiny. If you didn't cheer, you were bitter. If you asked the cost, you were heartless. The twins, Mia and Zoe, are 6. They're noisy, messy, and a blast, and none of this is on them. Since their birth, the family chat became a donation drive. Diaper funds, preschool fees, summer camps, dance gear, checkups, activities. I chipped in what I could without bitterness because it was clear-cut. Socks, a storybook, a birthday rocket kit. The trouble came when clear-cut ended and endless began. A year ago, Claire visited a private school with stone gates and a motto you'd need a dictionary for. Tuition, $50,000 per kid per year. There's aid, she said, and scholarships. And they value inclusivity. She meant financial inclusivity without saying it. Mom's eyes turned misty. Dad said, we'll sort it out. We, vague and sprawling, I stayed quiet at the first meeting. I listened as Mom spoke of heritage like we were funding a monument. I listened as Dad said public school was fine except for, well, you know, he never named it. They tossed numbers like glitter. Grandparents might chip in, maybe my uncle, maybe neighbors. Claire said, it takes a community, and stared at me on community. After, I texted her privately. What's the backup if aid falls short? She replied, we'll handle it. I said, that's not a strategy. She didn't respond. In the months after, the strategy became me. It started small. Can I grab $300 till Monday? The girls need camp fees. Can you cover this? We'll pay you back. Can you call the school about payment plans? You're good with their jargon. When I asked for documents, Dad brushed it off. Don't make it about transactions. When I said we needed firm numbers, Mom said, you always reduce everything to math. When I said debt has weight, Claire laughed. So dramatic. It wasn't just money. It was meaning. Who counted? How were choices made? Whose agreement was assumed and whose refusal was a betrayal? I tried setting limits. I can give X once, no loans. I'll help plan, not pay. Each time, Mom tilted her head like I'd spoken gibberish. We're family, she said, like that erased every question. Dad hardened it. You're doing fine, don't be greedy. Claire softened it. You'd be the best uncle if you pitched in. There were moments. At Easter, Claire trapped me by the sink. This school could shape their whole future, she said. It opens paths. I'm not debating the school, I said. I'm debating who funds it. You, she said, like it was obvious. And everyone else. At Dad's retirement party, he pulled me aside and spoke like I was a sponsor. There's a shortfall about $100,000, he said, pulling the number from thin air. You're single, no house payment. Think of it as investing forward. I have plans, I said. Goals that aren't trophies, he sighed. You've always been stubborn. Stubborn is what they call you when your no doesn't budge. The texts ramped up. In June, aid came through. It's decent but not enough. We need deposit help. In July, boarding costs less, but that's not realistic. In August, they'll hold the spots with a commitment letter. A commitment letter. That's when I saw the shape of the bag and box before they existed. I could see the paper, the tabs. I could hear Dad's steady voice explaining a buckle. So I prepared. I wrote my refusal in my phone's notes and read it daily for a week. I'm not covering $100,000. I adore the girls. I hope you find another way. I'm not in this. I set my phone down, heart pounding anyway. That's the thing with families like mine. You can know the numbers don't add up and still feel like you're the answer. You can see debt in red and still, over roast potatoes, when they call it love, you want to fold. Not because you can't spare the cash, but because you can't spare the aftermath. The story they'll write about you if you say no. 2 Sundays ago, I decided my story could shift, which is how I ended up with my hands on a sleek box at the dining table. The word family staring back like a challenge. "Read it," Mom repeated. Her smile was sharp enough to slice. Luke's camera app was still rolling. Claire sipped wine like she was at a play. I opened the first page. It wasn't just a note, it was a full contract. Header, footer, signature lines. Whereas the undersigned acknowledges the immense value of premier education. It listed sums in tidy rows. $50,000 per child, per year, 2-year minimum, review after. Blue tabs marked where I should sign. A sticky note in Mom's cursive read, "We're so proud of you." I inhaled, exhaled. "No," I said, silence like they hadn't heard. Dad's face shifted to negotiation mode. "Son," he said, "this isn't a big request, it's a promise. You want clarity, this is clarity." "It's $100,000, I said, steady. "That's not small." "It's not all at once," Claire jumped in. "Monthly payments. They made it simple. And it's a non-profit, so it's like a donation." "That's not how deductions work," I said. "You're missing the point," Mom snapped. "We're securing the girl's future. This is what families do. We rise up." "I've risen for years," I said. "I'm not signing this." Dad's voice dropped. "You have to cover this." I looked at him. "I don't have to do anything." Claire laughed, biting. "Of course you do. You said you'd always support the girls." "I do," I said. "Not as an ATM," Mom's chair screeched. "How can you be so selfish, after all we've done for you?" "What have you done for me?" The question slipped out, softer than planned. Not a jab, just a truth finally standing. Mom blinked like I'd cursed. Dad's jaw tightened. Luke lowered his phone like even he sensed this wasn't for recording. Claire leaned forward. "You don't even have a mortgage, Matt, no kids. This is nothing to you." I felt the old urge to justify my budget, to prove it wasn't nothing. I let it go. I set the pen down and slid the box back. "I'm not paying $100,000, I said, deliberate. "I love Mia and Zoe. I hope you find a way without me." Claire's face shifted from shock to anger to something raw and scared. She grabbed her glass and threw the wine. It hit my face, my shirt, the tablecloth. Red bloomed like a stain. The twins weren't there. They were at their dad's parents' house. But their bright cups sat on the counter, vivid, like evidence left in a flood. "Get out," Mom screamed, a sound I hadn't heard since I was 12 and broke a lamp. "Get out of this house." I stood. My chair didn't scrape because I lifted it, careful. I took a napkin, wiped my face, my collar. I placed it on my plate and tucked my hands in my pockets to hide the tremor. Dad pointed at the door. "You're a disappointment." Claire was breathing hard, like she'd sprinted through an argument. "How could you do this to my girls?" I wanted to say, "I'm not doing anything to them." I wanted to say, "You chose this." I wanted to say, "Public school isn't a failure." I said nothing. I walked to the hall for my jacket. My shirt stuck to my skin. My pulse raced, but my mind was still like a small miracle. I slipped into my coat and glanced at the family photos on the wall. Claire at her recital. Luke at soccer, me at a science fair. No, not me. There was no photo of that. There was one of me fixing a shelf Dad bought cheap in 2014. I almost smiled. I opened the front door. 10 minutes, Mom shouted from the dining room like she was timing my exile. I stepped onto the porch. The night was gentle, almost forgiving. I sat on the steps and texted my friend Lena. "It went down," she called instantly. "You okay?" she asked. "I think so," I said. "They made it a contract," she cursed. "You saw it coming." Then softer, "Come over, I'll brew tea." I was about to stand when a car pulled up. A man stepped out in a jacket, carrying a small metal case. He approached with purpose, like someone billing by the minute and running late. "Hi," he said, pausing on the path. "Are you Matt?" "I am. I'm Ben," he said. "Notary, of course." He glanced at the open door, my stained shirt, the dining room glow where shadows moved. His face calculated something. "Rough timing. They hired you," I said. "Your mom," he said it was a straightforward family paper. I exhaled and nodded. "Sounds right." Ben looked at his case, then at me. "Should I?" He gestured back, like he could undo the moment. I shook my head. "Go in, I'm leaving." He studied me a second longer. People who stamp signatures learn to read expressions. "For what it's worth," he said quietly, "you don't have to sign anything you don't want." "I know," I said and meant it. He walked inside. I followed to grab my keys from the hall table. As I reached for them, Mom saw Ben and clapped, frantic. "Perfect," she said, voice cracking. Claire was wiping the tablecloth, still trembling. Dad lifted his chin at me, daring me. Ben set his case down and opened it. The notary stamp shone like a badge. I can't notarize under coercion, Ben said, calm, professional. He looked at me. Everyone has to agree. He does, Mom said, too quick. Ben looked at me. Do you? I don't, I said. My voice was steady, clear. Not now, not ever. Claire's hands clenched the towel. This is cruel, she said. You're hurting us. Ben snapped his case shut. I'll bill for my time, he said, and turned to go. Mom's face collapsed like a dropped curtain. Dad's was fire and steel. You're abandoning your family, he said to me. I grabbed my keys and pocketed them. No, I said. I'm abandoning a debt. Claire made a sound I couldn't name. Maybe sorrow, maybe fury. I looked at her and said the line I'd practiced, the one I'd sworn I'd say if it came to this. This isn't about payback, I said. This is about moving on. What does that even mean? Mom spat. It means I'm done paying to belong. I walked out. The screen door snapped shut. Ben gave me a small nod on the porch, like a witness. I nodded back and stepped into the night, wine drying on my shirt like a border I was crossing. The next morning, I woke to 36 missed calls, 54 texts, and one email labeled urgent. Family. The texts stacked like a playlist. From Mom, we're heartbroken, call now. From Dad, unacceptable. You'll rue this? From Claire, the girls sobbed when they heard they might not go. How could you? From Luke, yo, last night was intense, you good? I set my phone face down, brewed tea, and opened my blinds. Light spilled across my floor like nothing had shifted. I stood there, breathing, and did something I should have done ages ago. I opened my bank app and canceled every auto-pay tied to their lives. No more temporary family streaming accounts. No more forgotten card on Claire's shopping app. No more just this month preschool payments. My phone pinged. You have successfully removed. At 9:02 a.m., Mom called again. I answered because the silence was too heavy. We raised you better, she said, no greeting. You raised me to clean up your messes, I said. I'm done. We didn't make messes, we're just asking for generosity. You're not asking, I said. You brought a notary, she paused. That was for transparency. Transparency, I echoed. Here's mine, I'm not funding private school, I'm not signing loans, I'm not debating it again. Her voice turned frail, shaky. Think of Mia and Zoe. I am, I said. I'm also thinking of myself. You don't have kids, she snapped like that erased my right to choose. I have a life, I said. I have limits, I didn't before, I do now. You're brainwashed by self-help nonsense, she hissed. This boundary obsession is a cult. Then this is my faith, I said. She hung up. At 10:30 Dad emailed, we'll speak to a lawyer. Attached was a PDF, family pack draft 2. I didn't open it. I forwarded it to my work email, amused to file family under non-billable. At noon, Claire texted from a new number. A photo of the twins in matching backpacks, eyes wide, grins big. See them, she wrote. How can you say no? They're amazing, I replied. I'm not paying. She sent a rant about sacrifice and love, ending with, you owe us after all we did when you were struggling in 2019. It took a second to recall she meant when Mom brought me leftovers once and Dad said to go outside more. I typed, deleted, typed. Using my mental health as leverage is a fast track to being blocked. Then I blocked her. Luke called that night. Man, he said. They're on a rampage. Dad says you're cutting off your own face to spite them. My face is fine, I said. You okay? He sighed. Torn, I get it, the amount's wild, but like it's the girls. Luke, I said soft. If I say yes because I'm scared you'll think I don't care about my nieces, I'll be paying with that fear forever. Yeah, he said, quiet. You're right, he paused. Mom asked if I'd make you say sorry. For what? For not being a checkbook, I guess. We sat in silence. Then he said, Mom posted in the family group online. He read it. All about prayers, tough calls, and some people forgetting their roots. I laughed, not because it was funny, but because it let me breathe. The next week, I built a new rhythm, like a barrier. Mornings, I kept my phone silent till 9. Evenings, I walked a park loop. I bought a cheap jump rope and a better pillow. I booked an ext. I bought a cheap jump rope and a better pillow. I booked an extra therapy session to talk about money. And we did. We discussed duty versus obligation. How being needed isn't being valued. How saying no makes those who profited from your yes act like you've broken a law. On day 3, Dad left a voicemail. We'll meet halfway. You cover year 1, we'll sort year 2. The way he said, sort told me we'd just revisit this in a year. I didn't call back. On day 5, Mom sent guilt letters. You'll regret this when we're gone, she wrote. We won't forget. I read it twice, saw it as both threat and vow. I saved it. On day 7, Claire texted from another number. Sorry about the wine. Then no pause. But if you love the girls, you'd try. I stared at the screen, felt a twinge, and set the phone down. I didn't reply because apologies with strings aren't apologies. The only message that shook me was from Aunt Ellen, who stays out of drama. Proud of you, she wrote. Boundaries aren't cages. They're gates you control. Hold your keys. I printed it and taped it inside my cupboard where I keep my budget folder. I know that sounds like I organize my spices. I do, it's the one place effort equals outcome. No one guilt's a ledger. Work felt lighter. My shoulders eased. I started craving silence, not fearing it. On the second Sunday after the dinner, I skipped the family meal. At 6:31 p.m., my phone buzzed. Where are you? I set it down and sautéed onions till they softened. At 6:45, my buzzer rang. I didn't answer. Someone slipped a paper under my door. It was the Family Learning Support Pact. Updated. My name still listed as payer. They'd added a line. Signing affirms moral duty despite legal limits. I laughed, loud, alone in my kitchen. I grabbed a pen and wrote across it in clear, firm letters. No, I folded it, tucked it into an envelope. I mailed it back to my parents with a note. Return to sender. It felt like shedding a weight I'd carried since I was 15. The release was soft, but it shifted how I stood. That night I slept straight through. No dreams of ledgers, no ticking clocks, just quiet, then dawn.